Hello, welcome to The Honest Wargamer. I'm your host, Rob, and in this video, if you're a fan of pleasure, then maybe don't tune in, because this is the Slaanesh preview the Games Workshop have put out, and it feels like many of you feel like it's a lot of pain, but maybe in that duality, we have found the secret sauce. So we're going to be reviewing the Slaanesh preview Games Workshop have posted. Please do let me know in the comments below what you think of it. Sorry if my voice is a bit raspy. I'm not sure I'm 100% today. So we're going to get straight into it. Okay. So, like all of the other previews we've looked at so far, the Hedonites of Slaanesh, which is a mixture of mortals and demons that have dedicated themselves to the godling of excess, Slaanesh themselves, have some battle traits, and these battle traits obviously apply to your whole army. Now, let's talk about this. Start of the battle round, so it's the start of every battle round, and there are 5 in Age of Sigmar. You get an excess of depravity, where you can pick up to 3 friendly Hedonites of Slaanesh units to be the targets. So 3. It's not keyword locked, so it's not locked to demons or mortals, it's any 3. Those targets have the euphoric keyword for the rest of the battle round. Okay, we're going to jump straight over to euphoric killers for a moment. While a friendly unit has the euphoric keyword, the unit's weapons have crit 2 hits, so any 6s to hit are going to generate 2 hits. So instead of just hitting once, you'll hit twice. And that unit can use run ability and still use shoot and or charge abilities later in the same turn. Now, in your turn, this is good, because obviously it means you can run and shoot, or you can run and charge, but also it means you can do things like redeploy, which is a run ability which you do in your opponent's turn and still do counter charge. So that actually unlocks some massive combos there. It's pretty good. Crit 2 hits is also good, especially if you have a boatload of attacks, because only like 6s that are mortal, 6s crit 2 hits. It depends on which one you prefer, but you potentially could get a lot of damage, especially if your to wound roll is really good. So that's the bonus that you get. You pick 3 units and they're going to have some good stuff. Also, the crit 2 hits aren't just locked to combat, which is great. So that does mean your Bliss Barbs have got some options there. So a pretty good set of buffs. There is a problem with this, though. You pick 3 friendly units, and for each friendly unit that you pick, you give your opponent a temptation dice. Your opponent can use 1 temptation dice to replace 1 wound roll, 1 save roll, 1 ward roll, or 1 run roll for a unit in their army with a 6. Now, if they have 2 temptation dice in their pool, then they can use those 2 dice to immediately do a 12-inch charge, okay? So you juice them up a little bit. You basically give them destiny dice. Each time your opponent uses a temptation dice, they must roll it. On a 1 to 2, you inflict D3 mortal damage. I will shout out Games Workshop here. Like, they've been doing this 2+ D3 mortal thing, which has confused a lot of people and has generally been a little bit awkward. And then they've written this in the better way for this article, which is kind of odd. But anyway, and at the end of the battle round, any temptation dice that have not been used are lost. I think a lot of people are a little bit disappointed, because in order to get the buffs for your units, you're going to be able to give your opponent massive bonuses. So it really does come down to how good having crit 2 hits, run, shoot, and charge is. Let me know in the comments below what you think, but based on the rest of the stuff that we've already read, feels pretty impressive. Next thing we're going to look at are the battle formations. When Age of Sigmar 4 launches, each army will have 4 different battle formations, which is like a style of play which will help certain units be even better. So they kind of pigeonhole your army a little bit, or give them a theme. Maybe that's another way to describe it. The one that they've featured is Depraved Carnival, and the passive is the Ecstatic Throngs. You add 1 to hit rolls for friendly Cyberite infantry units while they are damaged, or if they've had any models slain in the same turn. So +1 to hit rolls for Cyberite infantry units while they are damaged, or if they had any models slain. Now, this is pretty important. +1 to hit is going to be really interesting. +1 to hit, -1 to hit, especially when you look at like Mega Gargants, and -1 to hit could be a big deal. We're going to skip past some of the other stuff right now and go and look at the faction piece of terrain that you get for Slaanesh. Terrain in Age of Sigmar 4 is killable or destroyable, I think is probably the better way to describe it. It's got 10 health and a 4-up save, so it's quite fragile. But it does have an ability that you can do in each of your hero phases called the Damned Conduit, where you pick a friendly unit of Hedonites of Slaanesh wholly within 12 inches of the terrain feature to be the target. You allocate D3 damage points, which cannot use a ward save to try to stop, and then pick one of the following effects to apply to the start of your next turn. Add 1 to wound rolls for the target's combat attacks. Now that's really nice, because if we combo that with the subfaction ability we just talked about, or the battle formation ability, that's going to be +1 to hit and +1 to wound. on potentially a load of attacks with crit 2. It's pretty nice. Add one to run rolls or charge rolls, and add one to casting rolls or unbind rolls. If you end up building like a magic-focused army, maybe that you want to do that. I think that's quite good. Obviously, you take D3 damage. Like when they sometimes try to write thematic things, like Skaven does never get like a wholly within like 18 or within 18-inch range shot sometimes. Sometimes it's 13 inches to be thematic. So sometimes you just got to, take the rough with the smooth, which is very Slaanesh. But anyway, D3 mortal damage. And then you get +1 to wound, which is the one I think is particularly spicy in my personal opinion. So think about that when we talk about all the other things we're about to talk about. Then they have showed off a spell, and that one is Law of Extravagance. When you write your Age of Sigmar 4 army list, you pick a spell law. And then if you pick a spell law, every wizard that's in your army gains access to casting spells from that spell law. You can only cast a spell once in your hero phase, unless it's got the unlimited keyword, in which case you're going to be able to do it multiple times. But the same wizard can't do it more than once. Sadistic Spite is cast on a 6, and it's an unlimited spell, which it means if you've got like 3 wizards, each one of the units that you have made euphoric, you are going to be able to cast it on them as well, which is pretty nice. Pick a friendly Hedonites of Slaanesh wizard, and then choose a friendly euphoric unit, so the battle trait that you've got. The target's melee weapons have crit mortal instead of crit 2 hits. Now, this is really interesting. I'm sure right now there's people crunching numbers. They've got spreadsheets open, and they're like, oh, do I want crit 2 more? Do I want crit mortals? Do I want crit 2 hits? Someone in the comments let me know which is better. But the fact that you can just start punching through enemy armor because you have crit mortals, which means any 6s to hit do mortal damage, which will immediately skip an armor save. And what's nice about this is you get the choice, right? If the unit that you're fighting doesn't have a particularly good armor save, then crit 2 hits might be better because you just get loads more wound dice and they're probably not going to save them. Whereas if your army's got an incredible armor save, like a 3-up or a 2-up, then those crit mortals are going to punch through what will be a points expensive upgrade in having really good armor. So that's quite an interesting pivot for the army, in my personal opinion, and you get the choice. Right, then they showed off some unit focuses, and let me tell you, easily one of my favorite models in Age of Sigmar has for a long time been Shalaxi Hellbane, and having read this review, it's going in the basket. It's going in the basket, and I'm super happy about this because I've wanted them to be great for a good long time. Shalaxi Hellbane is a 16 health, 4-up armor save, 5-up ward save, 2-cast wizard monster hero that's unique in a War Master, which means it will be your general in your army when you build your regiments. Okay, she is a combat powerhouse with Soul Pierce having 6 attacks, 2s and 3s, Rend 2, damage 3, with anti-hero +1 Rend. Now, already we know we can get +1 to wound if we want, and then 2 impaling claw attacks, which are damage 4, for a total of potentially 26 damage coming out of Shalaxi, which I think is really nice. So love that. Control value 5 for controlling those objectives. And if you do need to control objectives, Honest Wargamer objective markers, you know where to get them. thehonestwargamer.com. Okay, so she's a great combat character. She's also a 2-cast wizard. They is a 2-cast wizard. 2-cast. As good as a Laura to change. Great. Okay, so then got the battle damage passive, which means Soul Piercer goes from 6 attacks to 4 attacks. Got a passive called Supernatural Grace, which is subtract 1 from hit rolls for combat attacks that target this unit. What that does mean, think about the Gargant matchup where they're generally hitting on 4s. Throw Shalaxi in, they're now generally hitting on 5s. That's pretty good. That makes them that much more survivable. Okay, what makes them even more survivable is the Rampage, which you do once per turn in your army as a reaction to your opponent declared a charge ability for a hero within 9 inches of this unit. So if your opponent declares a charge with a hero within 9 inches, or the counter-charge command ability, which you can do in your opponent's turn, still within 9 inches, then you can use this ability. You'll make a 2d6 roll, move the model that far, and if you end up within half an inch of that unit, within that hero, that unit does not count as having charged, which is wild. Now, this obviously works super well if you've made this model euphoric, because now you can redeploy in their turn, and you normally can't redeploy in countercharge because redeploy is considered to be a run. But because you have run and charge, because the unit is euphoric, you can redeploy countercharge. So Shalaxi can be potentially moving 18 inches. It does require you to roll a 6 and 2 6s, but can be like absolutely going after heroes, which I think is quite interesting as well, especially with the anti-hero Rend 1. Now, you've also got a once per battle ability on the War Scroll in your combat phase, where you pick a friendly non-hero Hedonites of Slaanesh unit holding within 12 inches of this unit to be the target. That target can use 2 fight abilities, and after the first is used, however, the target has strike last for the rest of the turn. But if you have a way in this army to make your opponent have strike last, that means that you'll be able to strike at your normal value, and then also strike last, but first, because it's your activation, which means you can basically double the melee output of a unit, and then if you've made that unit euphoric, so that it's got crit 2 hits or crit mortals or whatever, then you're basically just going to have just an incredible amount of attacks. You're going to do it once per battle in your combat phase, but it isn't locked. If maybe you were going to see the Keeper of Secrets also have that as well. And then lastly, Shalaxi's got a spell which is only cast on a 4, and for the rest of the turn you add 1 to wound rolls to this unit's attacks that target enemy heroes. Incredible. And add 1 to save rolls for the attacks made by the enemy heroes that target this unit. So that's also a spell that you can do in your opponent's turn, because it only lasts for that turn. So in your turn you can charge in and do some fighting, but in your turn you can also, in their turn you can also cast this on them, do a counter charge. Yes, it's a lot of CP, but you can go hunting. Lastly, this model moves 14 inches. It's fast. Okay, Shalaxi glow up. It's also a level 2 wizard. It's a level 2 wizard. Okay. Next unit we're going to look at is Fiends, and I'm not going to try and argue that these are good. These have got a unit of 3 models. They got 4 health each, that's 12 from the unit, with a 5-up save and no ward save. They got a control value of 1, and there are 3 models in the unit, and that would normally equal a control score of 3 times 1. However, or 3 lots of 1. Sorry, I should be clear. However, they have the Beast passive, and this unit has a maximum control score of 1. Yikes. However, maybe the reason that you're going to bring this unit is because of their once per turn army in any combat phase, which does mean in every combat phase, ability to cover you in some soporific musk. Say that 3 times fast. You pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit to be the target, and on a 4+, that target has the strike last effect for the rest of the turn. So now, strike last on a unit, make one of your units fight twice. Before they ever fight, that unit's probably dead, which is pretty good. But it's on a 4+, can do it in every combat phase. Who knows? Who knows? And then lastly, they have Disruptive Song. Subtract 1 from casting rolls, unbinding rolls, and enemy wizards for enemy wizards while they're within 12 inches of this unit. Kind of interesting, maybe not interesting. We'll have to see. I don't think that's a big deal. And I should talk about the fact that they do have a combat attack, which is 4 attacks each for 12 attacks, hitting on 4s, wound on 3s, rend 1, damage D3. If you fight a monster, it's rend 2. It's quite a few attacks, but hitting on 4s is a bit yikesy, and they're all companion attacks, so you're not going to be able to change many of those stats around, because companion companion weapons are pretty limited. This is quite interesting. Maybe we'll see a lot of beasts have these kind of like minimal effects, and maybe they'll just end up being what, Games Workshop have maybe moved them into a support role. Maybe they're like, their job isn't to hold an objective, because the job of holding an objective definitely comes down to the Myrmidesh Twin Souls, which I'd like to highlight is a bit weird for the models. The Myrmidesh Twin Souls build into 2 different kits. One of them has got a massive shield and a weapon, and these guys have got like 2 weapons. And for some reason, these feel like these are great at holding objectives, which I find odd. Anyway, they start out as a unit of 5 with 2 health, 4-up save, and they move 6 inches. And they've got a control value of 1, which means a unit of 5 is going to be a control score of 5 in total. Okay, in combat, they've got 4 attacks, hit on 3s, win on 4s, rend 1, damage 1. Doesn't sound very impressive, but we're going to come back to that in a moment. Okay, they've got 2 passives. Ego-driven excess. If this unit did not charge this turn, subtract 1 from the attack characteristic of melee weapons used by enemy units while they're in combat with this unit. That is to a minimum of 1, because in the core rules it says you can't take a characteristic below 0 unless specified otherwise. So that's going to be from 2 attacks down to 1 attack. That's a massive reduction in the output of your opponent. In addition, they have another passive called Fiendish Reflexes. If this unit did not charge this turn, it has a ward save of 5+ while it's in combat. So you camp these guys on an objective, your opponent tries to charge them, and then they are going to have -1 attacks to their profile, and also this unit's going to have a 5-up save. With 5 models, 2 wounds each, that's 10 wounds on a 5-up ward save. They're going to have a 4-up armor save, 5-up ward save. That feels pretty tanky. But let's talk about countercharging, or not countercharging, but counterfighting. Plonk 10 of these guys on an objective, and then we're going to have 40 attacks from this unit. But we can spice that up a little bit if we want to, because we can give them critical 2 hits. Pretty nice. And then in addition to that, we could potentially make it so they're doing mortals on 6s. And then finally, we can make this unit fight twice. So we could have 40 attacks, any 6s are a mortal, and then fighting twice for 80 attacks. That feels pretty good. Like, that feels pretty good. That feels like an absolute blender that you would have to charge into. Now, that obviously requires you to also bring Shalaxi, also cast a spell. There's a lot of things that are happening in there. In my opinion, that's a lot of things. I quite like it. I definitely feel Slaanesh players are going to feel a little bit salty about their battle trait benefiting their opponent. But it seems like there's a lot of like stacking flavor in the army, where there's a line of, you can see that line of stacked abilities, which will be really fun to pull off. And it also does look like you have some units which are going to really fulfill very specified roles. Shalaxi obviously very good for hunting monsters, hunting heroes. Those twin souls, incredibly good for holding objectives. And then fiends, great for sitting on your shelf. But there's still loads more to look at. Like, we haven't seen bliss barbs. We don't know what the spell lore is like. We don't know what the endless prayers are going to do, what endless spells are going to do. Manifestation. Sorry, I was struggling for the word. Like, so this feels like there's a lot of stuff there that, like, as in every preview, that we haven't seen. So, I wouldn't be too disheartened. And I personally probably because Shalaxi probably be a lot of points. If I can get Shalaxi on the board, maybe a keeper, a couple of other large models, maybe like 10 slick blades. If I don't have to paint bliss barbs up, I feel like that would be an absolutely gorgeous army to play with. And you know what? If nothing else, Shalaxi looks to have glown up, which is kind of perfect. My hopes for Dexessa and the other character, like super, I mean, I don't even know what they're called because I've never seen them on the table, but my hopes for them as well. Anyway, if you've liked these videos, thank you very much. Please do like and comment on the video. And also, if you'd like to join the Honest Wargamer Patreon, that would be super cool. Help support the show. We'll be bringing you loads of big faction deep dives across all of Age of Sigmar 4. So thanks very much for watching. I'll see you guys soon. Bye.